Good evening. Welcome to the special called mayor and council meeting of Monday, November 10th, 2025. A quorum is present. Council members, you have before you an agenda. I will entertain a motion.
I would like to make a motion, but amend it to put the public comments after the presentation.
All right, I have a motion with an amendment. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Mr. Lama, if you will lead us in the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Cindy. Under new business, public hearing for 2026 proposed budgets.
Madam Mayor and Council, I think I'm going to give a few intro comments and Cindy will get up and get into the detailed numbers. Just as a reminder for an overview of our budget adoption process, this process takes about 3.5 months to work through. So I just wanted to remind everyone about our process that we have been using the last few years on our budget adoption, particularly with regards to schedule. So the department heads in mid-August receive the initial budget parameters and preliminary assumptions from the city administrator and chief financial officer for development of their draft budget request. So they receive that information in mid-August. And then by early September, the budget submittal spreadsheets are due back to city administration as well as finance. And we do use the DCA Uniform Chart of Accounts format. We switched to that a few years ago to make our reporting process to the state more seamless. And then in late September, early October, we had the initial department budget review meetings where the department heads and some of their key staff meet with both the city administrator's office as well as finance to present their initial draft budgets. And from mid-October to where we are today, city administration and finance staff finalize the budget parameters because, as you might imagine, starting in early to mid-August, we have to fine-tune those assumptions and parameters as we go along. And so we use this process between mid-October to current to make any necessary corrections or adjustments that we've identified. And we prepare a final budget draft pursuant to the city charter and ordinances in which you will be presented this evening. And if all goes as planned, we have advertised and planned to request city council adoption of the budget at the next regularly scheduled meeting on November 17th, which is a week from today. Tonight's budget hearings satisfies the state law requirements for advertising. We have had the budget available for public inspection for over a week now, both at the finance office as well as the website. The proposed budget draft that you will be presented this evening has been posted, and the budget hearing has to occur a week before the budget adoption occurs. And so, as you can see, we've got our full team of department heads here. They have worked really hard this year, as with every year, to work through a lot of the challenges that the budget process presents from time to time. As you'll see tonight, costs increase, and we try to do our best to think creatively. The department heads work really hard to look at their budgets uniquely from year to year and not just take what they had last year and start from there. We really build this budget from the ground up each year, and very proud of our team and what they've worked on. I'm going to give just a quick overview of the expense cost drivers for the 2026 budget, and these are a lot of the pushes and pulls, changes from year to year. Cindy will go over this as well as go into some of the revenue changes from year to year, but I just wanted to hit the highlights on what some of our challenges were this year as we navigated this process from mid-August. Our 2026 proposed budget has total expenditures of $49,820,000. And you'll see in the details that Cindy provides, that's about a 7.5% increase compared to 2025. One of the greatest challenges that we faced this year was the ever increasing cost of health benefits, health insurance coverage. As you can see on the slide, we landed on about a 35% increase overall. And that number was initially higher than 35%. And we had to work very diligently, think creatively. We had to implement some plan design changes this year to bring that number back down to 35% due to some of the claims experience that we've had over the last couple of years. So there have been a whole host of changes with regards to our health benefit plan. And I want to thank Halima. She came in when we were starting to make this transition and has done a great job. And we're in the process of working through open enrollment starting this week on some of the cafeteria benefits, and the health plan open enrollment will take place. And there's a major educational campaign that we're going to provide to the employees of not just the city, but Dalton Utilities to help guide them through some of the changes that had to be made to get the benefit number down from what it was originally. We also this year, as you'll recall, started under former HR Director Greg Batts and now to Ms. Jones. We worked with a third-party consultant to complete a compensation and classification study in 2025 this year with the goal of implementing that in 2026. And again, we've had compensation studies in the past, but this is the first year in quite some time that we've looked both internally and had our employees evaluate their positions. The consultant scored those positions, and also a compensation study where the salary data was compared to various employers within the region, both local government and some private employers, if they did provide data back to us. The one key feature of the 2026 budget is to try to implement a step and grade system for the fire department, both considering tenure, experience, as well as certifications and rank. As you may recall, we implemented a similar system for the police department a year ago. We're trying to do the same thing for the fire department this year. That was a cost driver in this budget. And as a reminder, our OPEB trust funds were exhausted this year, maybe toward the end of last year, early part of this year. So those costs are now captured on a pay-go basis, and these are the post-employment benefits of retirees. However, and that cost is about $567,000 a year, but just as a reminder, the OPEB benefits were phased out for employees hired on or after September 1st, 2007. So these funding commitments only apply to employees hired prior to that date. However, that is an accrued liability as we move into the future that we're having to account for in our budgets. We anticipate a commercial property and liability insurance increase of 19%. We're actively working through the renewal process. At this moment, our policy is on a January to December cycle now, and so we should have those numbers finalized, but we've been told to expect around a 19% increase. If it comes in more, we'll have to adjust the budget next year. If it comes in less, then that will be to the city's benefit. The departments were tasked with assuming some utility rate increases, and since our budget was prepared, Dalton Utilities' budget has been presented and does incorporate proposed rate increases for electric, water, and wastewater. Those rate increases have not been approved by the board yet, but I understand that they plan to take that up at their meeting this month. So our budget does have some increases built in for utility rates. From a FTE staffing position, we added full funding for full staffing at the police department, which includes the 90 sworn officers, which is their historical approved staffing level, as well as funding for 3 new SRO positions. We also added a new facility manager position at the Parks and Rec Department for the John Davis Center when it is completed, in consultation with Parks and Rec leadership. That was a position that existed previously, but has not been needed the last few years, given the ongoing construction project. But once the project's completed, that will be of need. And then finally, in our draft budget, we added a special events and community engagement coordinator to the admin budget. And we met with the Downtown Development Authority board this morning to present that concept, and we're in the process of working with the authority to review a draft intergovernmental agreement which would memorialize this position and the services that it would provide to the DDDA, and it would reduce, although it's a new expense to the general fund budget, it would reduce our other agency funding that's typically provided directly to the DDDA. So the purpose of this would be to continue to provide those high quality services within the downtown district, but also the position would help coordinate events outside the downtown district, as well as new community and employee engagement opportunities for the whole city. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Jackson.
This first slide you have shows our revenues, our actual from 2024, our adopted 2025, and our proposed 2026. As you can see, there's a 5.8% increase in these revenues, almost $2.7 million. When we prepared the budget, we had to make several assumptions about revenues. We are expecting our taxes to increase approximately $763,000 or 3%. Real and personal property taxes, they're budgeted to increase $600,000, which means the overall net taxable digest will need to increase 9% to utilize the rollback rate. The insurance premium tax is budgeted at the 2025 actual, which increased $296,000. We are budgeting fines and revenues to increase $232,000. Charges for services were expected to increase slightly due to adding a new revenue source to the city's services. We are going to start charging for public events, our staff, as they help people with parades and street closings and things like that. We will be budgeting for that, and we estimate that will be approximately $95,000 for new revenue line. Our interest revenue is expected to decrease $600,000. We've already seen it decreasing this year. We're currently under budget for 2025, $200,000. And this is due to the anticipated reductions in the Fed fund rate is coupled with a reduction in available cash. Miscellaneous revenue is expected to increase 10.5%, and that is due to an increase in the recreational facility rentals. The transfers in budget line is 13.5% higher than 2025, $2.1 million higher. That is due to the city budgeting for a $2 million transfer from the Dalton Whitfield Solid Waste Management Authority. And the Water Line and Sinking Fund is budgeted $185,000 more than we initially budgeted for it last year. If you'll go to slide 2. As you can see, we are budgeting revenues and other financing uses are expected to be $49.8 million more. I'm sorry, that's the total. It's going to leave us with a $805,000 deficit that we will be pulling from our fund balance to balance the budget as required by state law. The 2026 budget expenditures are $3.5 million more than they were last year. Most of all of these increases are due to they are wage and benefit related. 2.1 million of the increase is a result of implementing the wage study and step and grade for the fire department. 78,000 is a result of a 2.8% across the board increase to full-time employees that were not recommended increases per the wage study. $1.3 million increase as a result of the healthcare cost. As Andrew said, it increased 35%. The budget also includes adding 6 full-time positions. As Andrew said, 1 in administration, 2 in recreation, and 3 in the police department. We'll flip to the next slide. This shows the revenues and the expenditures by classification. Once again, total revenues 49,015, expenditures 49,820, and 805,000 we will utilize from our fund balance. As you can see on the left-hand side of the page, property taxes, our 3 highest revenues: property taxes, sales tax, and our transfer in from the utility. The utility transfer fee of 1.5 million comprises almost 32% of our total revenue and other financing sources. Property tax revenue and local option sales tax are budgeted at 9.1 million this year, and each represents 18.6% of our total revenue and other funding sources. If you look on the right-hand side, it breaks down how our total expenditures by classification. Personal services and benefits represents 75% of our budget. Purchased and contracted services, 11%. Supplies and operating charges, 9%. Capital outlay, of course, we have our CIP budget, but we do have some small items in this budget as well. Payments to other agencies, less than 1%. Contingency, 0.2%, and debt service, almost $1.2 million. Flip to the next slide. Our expenditures and other financing uses. This shows as a department or transfers out the percentage of the total budget, 49,820. Public safety represents $26.3 million of the budget. That's almost 53%. Public works represents 9.4 million, which is almost 19%. And recreation represents 5.5 million, which is 11% of our budget. You'll go to the next slide. Other agency allocations. We have decreased the general fund has reduced allocations by $290,000, which $183,000, the Dalton Whitfield Joint Development Authority and Believe Greater Dalton will be paid out of our Economic Development Fund instead of the general fund this year. We'll slip to the next slide, slide number 6. This is just provided by departments so that you can see in each department how much is personal services and benefits, purchase supplies, etc. So this is just a little bit more information for you. The next budget. So that concludes our general fund budget. And as Andrew said, you know, we do have the challenges with our capital projects bids coming in over estimated costs, contributions to our defined benefit plan which is vulnerable to volatile market shifts. So we always have to contend with that each year. Our net OPEB, the city's portion is 8.9 million. The total, including the utility and solid waste, is about 18 million, and accrued compensated absences are 5.9 million for the general fund. We began 2025 with a fund balance of 27.8 million, of which 25.9 million was unrestricted. I'm currently looking at what we estimate 2025 to be projecting forward, and I will have that at the Finance Committee meeting for you. The fund balance policy minimum reserve, when we look at this budget, the very minimum that we can have until we go into like emergency phase is about 12.3 million. The next budget we're going to look at are our capital projects budgets. Most of our capital project budgets are multi-year budgets and are not adopted annually. So any changes that we have to those, like the 2015 SPLOST, 20 SPLOST, 24, the airport grant, we do those by budget amendments throughout the year. But we do have money coming in to the 2024 SPLOST because we're pulling that out from the general fund. So we're moving $703,000 into our 2024 SPLOST for paving. And that 703 represents LMIG, and then our service delivery, 200,000. And then capital improvements, we've expect interest income of about 15,000, and hopefully some proceeds from some sale of our old equipment, 25,000.
If I could just add on the capital projects fund, just as a reminder, the last few years, we have not really presented a capital improvements program until the spring, because we like to wait and see how the year closed out as we get into the late part of January and start having all the final invoices that come in at year end. And so typically we start that process of evaluating needs. We have a 5-year plan that we maintain, but we reevaluate that and reassess that plan after we close out the year, as well as reconciling that, as Cindy said, with the other multi-year funds like the SPLOST and things like that. The SPLOST has really, taken a burden off of the CIP fund requirements that we would have historically had to allocate for replacement of fleet, equipment, building and facility repairs, things like that. But I just wanted to remind the council that we will most likely not present a capital improvement plan request until sometime in the spring of 2026.
The next are our special revenue funds. Hotel motel tax, we are budgeting that at 2.1 million. The hotel motel fund represents the city's 7% excise tax on room rentals. These funds are restricted for certain purposes. We can only move 43% into the general fund to cover general fund expenses, and we didn't move that much. I think it's like maybe 38%. The hotel motel revenue provides funding to the convention center, CVB, and our designated marketing organization, which is our CVB as well. So that is a balanced fund. Whatever we bring in, we pay out on those items that I told you about. Confiscated asset funds, those are funds that are confiscated from the state and federal and sent to the city through our through cases with our police department, and they are restricted for police department expenditures. Our Economic Development Fund represents our pilot payments that we get from companies that have entered into abatement agreements with the JDA. The city will pay out of, we're anticipating $183,000 based on the most recent spreadsheet that I've gotten from the JDA. And of that amount, we will pay $157,500 to fund the JDA and $25,000 to fund Greater Dalton. And It's on the public safety line, but I will be moving that up as housing and development. It just got on the wrong line, so I'll correct that before we have our next budget meeting. So that's just representing money in, money out. CDBG funding, you know, we are an entitlement, so we get that money every year. This is, I just budgeted at what we received for 2025. It could change. And the opioid settlement fund, 56,000, and you know, we've restricted it for public safety. And this $56,000 is what they estimate on the opioid portal that we will receive next year. And with that, if you have any questions or need any more detail.
My memory, how much money did we have to take out of the reserve fund this year to fund our budget?
If you look at all of our budget amendments, we have revenue, our adjusted budget at 47.1 million and expenditures at 49.6 for a deficit of 2.5 million.
Two
But
point-
I've started looking at that and I think we're probably going to be right under $1 million pulling out of our fund balance, but I'll have that number more fine-tuned at the finance committee meeting for you.
So million this year and a proposed withdrawal of
Okay.
800 next year. Remind me what our total balance is like as of the end of this year.
We started out with 27.8 million and 25.9 was unrestricted.
Right. How much have we pulled that down in the last, say, 3 or 4 years? Where was it at one time when it was at the highest?
Did a analysis, but I don't have my computer. Do you have that with you? I can get that for you, Steve.
Yeah, I was
did
just
20
curious.
year, I did like a 20-year analysis showing where all the money went. So I'll
Right.
be happy to forward that
Yeah,
to
that's fine.
you.
Ms. Jackson, correct me if I'm wrong, but was some of the dip into the fund balance this year associated with projects, local matches with projects that are reimbursable?
Yes.
So it was not just the general fund M&O, it was also inclusive of any grant matches.
Yes.
To follow up on that point, I mean, I think, that's a better use of it than to live off it for operational purposes. That's what I'm more concerned about.
And I doubt we will pull down in that number that I've told you about. I doubt we will pull down that much for those airport grants this year.
Right.
But it's the way they're doing the grants, they're sort of commingling some of them, they're overlapping. So I've got to sit down and take a couple days and really dig into those to estimate how much I think we're going to have to pay out this year.
I hope I'm wrong, but all these layoffs that we've been seeing the last couple months, I think that's not going to be the end of it. So I think we might have a rougher year than we think ahead of us. And then when you have that state law come into effect, which puts a cap on how much residential taxes, it's going to be what do we anticipate the shift of the tax load will be over? It'll definitely shift, but how much will shift over to commercial, industrial next year, do you think, Cindy?
I'm not sure.
But it'll definitely be more of a shift on those businesses that
You
are
know, when we
already.
looked at it earlier this year, with the new exemptions that are going into place, not necessarily the cap, it was less than $100,000 on the exemptions. But I don't know about it's capped at the CPI, and
Yeah.
I don't know if the assessor's office is going to do more commercial and industrial next year. Have you heard? So.
Yeah.
I mean, I doubt they're going to do a whole lot more reassessment for the residential. We've had a lot of growth in the city, so hopefully those new projects coming online will be
Increase.
real growth to our tax digest.
Yep.
Steve, I appreciate your comments about not living off of the fund balance because it's imperative that we be mindful of that. If we look at a pie chart of how the city is comprised, that's one of the unusual things about the city of Dalton that Mayor Pennington brought such attention to several years ago, is that we are so heavily comprised of industrial, commercial, and not residential, where the unincorporated county is so heavily residential. And that's how we are different. So House Bill 1 could take from that I'm of the opinion that we will be impacted much less in the
Less.
city because we are not comprised predominantly of homestead properties.
Right.
So
That's
it's
good.
going to, that will be to our benefit going forward, but I don't want to speculate about what the assessor's office will or will not do. But it is my understanding that there is still a lot of catch up of assessed values on commercial properties, that they are still said to be quite undervalued.
That is what I understood and that my late.
I hope I'm
conversation
completely
is-
wrong about future early retirements and layoffs, in the industry, but it seems to me like,
And with the cost of goods going up, our sales tax collections have grown because of cost of goods has continued to increase. As unfortunate as that is for everyone, it's definitely increased our sales tax revenue. I wanted to add on the first slide that Andrew, that you read from, we're looking at to memorialize, we're looking at the 7.5% increase in expenditures. And regardless of what our revenues are, it's impressive to me that we're only looking at a 7.5% increase in expenditures. Is that M&O, or is that the entire budget? Or because that's just an encouraging number to me, that it's still 7.5%, but that it's not more than that.
You can see on this slide that shows the departments, the 7.5% increase is inclusive of all the general fund expenditures that you see with the various departments, as well as the any potential payments to other agencies, as well as just as a reminder, the debt service requirements that Cindy referenced, that our annual debt service payment, in addition to, if you look under other financing uses, that transfer out is associated, I believe, with Public Works paving. So the revenues are booked to the general fund as well as the expenditures. And so sort of the only project-related item within that 7.5% is the paving, where we bring money into the general fund through the state LMIG program, as well as the service delivery agreement with the county. They provide $200,000 in funding toward paving. So other than that, it's all related to general fund expenditures.
And that's,
Those grant matches are reflected in our amendments, not the original budget. So hopefully
okay, so say that one more time.
our grant matches that we're doing this year are booked in our amendments and not in this original budget. Because
Okay.
we've added about,
And also the $1 million that we loaned to the Housing Authority,
right,
we did that as
I know.
well. So that impacted that came from our reserve fund, did it not?
it did.
So that's $1 million that we also pushed out this year that pulled things down. I mean, very worthy investment, but we're gonna miss it for a while.
Mhm.
So while you're looking that up, the OPEB, the 567,000, I mean, that's over $500,000 that we have a responsibility to pay. And then these insurance increases for property and liability. In the past 3 years, we've experienced, was it 45, 50% 2 years ago that hit our budget mid-year?
I believe it was 2023. It could have been
Right.
2024. We had a major increase, and it was primarily related when the when the CPI increased, a lot of property values increased, so the carriers wanted to take a closer look at building and content value. And it was determined at that time we were sort of underinsured on many of our properties because they had not, those values for both building and contents had not been comprehensively updated in several years. And so, but then again, we turn around this year expecting 19%. We're working hard on that with the carrier to try to get that anticipated increase down. And if it does come in under 19%, that will reduce the utilization of fund balance in the proposed budget.
Is it possible that there might be any other revenues that might come in that we just have not wanted to count on, that it would be from
We-
JDA?
we
potentially?
well, the JDA, I reached out and they really couldn't give me a number. So that's why I went with the old spreadsheet. So we're hoping we may get some revenue from there, with some of the
To pay
core
ourselves
deal.
back for
Yes.
significant.
We will be
purchase.
able to do that. We will be able to replenish our fund balance if we do get that, windfall from the deal that they have inked in the city. We kept most of our revenues close to what we have this year. I mean, we really didn't increase anything.
Well, no, I think
you
we've
know,
always had
we-
a posture of being conservative, and that's appropriate.
Because it's taken us, through October to catch up on like TAVT, sales tax, a lot of things that were lagging behind. So we did adjust a lot of them, like some of our licenses and permits. Some of those numbers were down, and especially like the financial institution funds that we get, and we kept those at what we were getting this year. So we did not really increase anything other than the line items that we went over.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions?
I just wanted to clarify, Madam Mayor, there is a typo on this at the very bottom. The added special events coordinator and community engagement coordinator, it makes it appear that it's two positions. There was just unfortunately a typo on that bullet point. It's special events and community engagement coordinator, not two positions. I just wanted to clarify that for the record.
Okay. So just so, as we are here today, what is our fund balance for our rainy day fund? Or to whatever date you have it up to,
We probably because of the 1 million, it's probably down to about, and I'll have that up to date for you through,
at finance, that's fine.
October.
Okay.
let's see.
My notes show
Down to about, what, 2.48 or something like that.
I think she's talking about the overall
Yeah.
fund balance. I believe you shared that it was, we started 2025 with 27.8 million.
Yes.
Of which 25.9 was unrestricted. So by the time you account for the housing authority loan, I would anticipate it's dipped, down to 24 million. Which is about double the state recommended minimum.
Okay. So that's what I'm,
We have, like I said, on those, the grant matches, we've added about $2.5–3 million to the adjusted budget, but we're not paying those down. But
anything, Tyree, Nikki?
and hopefully I'm a little, since the 2025 taxes are going out late, that's going to be
Right.
a little bit
It'll be
unknown for
January.
2025, but we do get to book, 60 days after the year end as a receipt.
Which we did this past year too.
Yeah. Our collections, we were afraid they would be down last year, but they weren't. We caught up pretty quick on those. So hopefully 2025 will be the same.
Thank you very, very much. If no one has any other questions or comments of Cindy, we'll move on to item number 2. Okay. Item number 2, under announcements, the 2026 budget adoption is
Great.
get,
Madam Mayor, I'm sorry, public comment.
well, I'm sorry, yeah, we amended the agenda. At this time, if there's anyone who wishes to address this council, they're welcome to come forth and speak. Okay, not seeing anyone get out of their, include staff, anybody? You guys have seen this budget so long, you're probably tired of looking at it. All right, thank you, Andrew. Item number 2, under announcements, the 2026 budget adoption is scheduled for the meeting of the mayor and council on Monday, November 17th, 2025 at 6 p.m. The proposed budget is available for inspection by the public during regular office hours of 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday at the finance office. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Cindy, very, very much.